I I wanted to share the idea of having a podcast in order to actually share what experiences I've had in the past. And one of the experiences that I've been told I should share that would be interesting to a lot of people is the out of body experience that I had, where um, as a result of an accident on the 404, I was shot out of the sunroof of my car
Oh my, yeah.
onto the highway
Yeah.
and fell on my head. And as a result of that, my spirit actually at that point is how I've come to understand it exited my body, and then I was able uh, to be looking down and seeing my physical form and watching over what was happening at that stage. And that experience, because after that I also had a spirit guide that I was able to communicate with, but only through thought.
Wait. You're going
Okay.
too quickly.
Okay.
So, talking about the out of body experience, I think
Mhm.
it's very important to clarify step by step a little bit more. How did it feel? What did you see? Because
Okay.
I think there are lots of other people who have gone through that experience,
Right.
and we want to just understand, is yours different? Is similar?
Mm-hmm.
What are the similarities of this?
Mhm.
So, if you can elaborate.
Okay. Um, you're the one asking me questions instead of me asking you, my guests. Anyway, no. Yes.
The guest cannot talk about your experience.
Oh,
It is your next your. How can I?
your thing.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to help
Yeah.
you to focus more, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No,
go
that's
step by
good.
step. Okay.
Okay. Well, what actually happened is I was driving north on the 404 from downtown Toronto coming, and it was a beautiful sunny day, June 13th, I remember, 1991. And there was no cars on the road at that point, and not like today. But, and it was around 12 noonish.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, my memory stops there. But what I know as a result of what happened there physically versus what happened when my spirit stepped out of my body, there
Yeah.
are like two different layers of experiences. So what happened is the accident that took place at that point is when my body was thrown out of the car through the sunroof onto the highway
Yeah.
at the gully of Stouffville.
Yeah.
And then the car turned over and faced traffic.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, there was an undercover police car, apparently, is what I was told after,
Oh.
behind me, that quickly phoned air ambulance. And so that's one part of the experience.
So,
But in the meanwhile, what was interesting and what my memory holds on to is what happened when my body was thrust out of my physical form and I was able to look down and see myself lying on the highway. And then at that split second, there was a spirit guide that I had beside me, and kept saying to me in thought, because there was no communication verbally,
yeah.
but I was thinking things, and the spirit guide would respond to those thoughts by giving me the response in thought.
Okay.
And the thought was, do not be afraid, do not be afraid. I kept being told that consistently. And what I watched is how the air ambulance was called, the helicopter had come, they had placed me in the helicopter to go to Sunnybrook. And then at that point, as the plane left to head to Sunnybrook, my physical form, my physical form was there, but my spirit form was hand in hand with the spirit guide and entered into several different dimensions.
So right at the beginning of that experience, you started entering into those different
Yeah,
dimensions.
yeah. It was like the throwing of my body out of the sunroof of the car.
Yeah.
Thrust my spirit out of my body.
Out of your body completely. Yeah.
And it was from that point that I had, when my body was thrust out and it went, well, we describe it as above, feeling that you're in the sky somewhere.
Yeah.
And at that point, the spirit guide that came and was beside me would indicate to me the thought and because it was all telepathically.
Did you see that spirit guide? Did it have a form, a face?
No, it was just light. It was light,
just
but it
light?
was,
Yeah.
and there was a form. There was
Yeah.
a form, like it looked like a physical form,
Okay.
but nothing specific that I recall, like as to a face, and it looked like this or it could look like that, right?
nothing.
No, it
But
was
you just only were able to capture,
to sense
to send
and
them,
to hear.
and
Well, not hear.
Not
sorry,
hear.
well, telepathically hear.
telepathically,
Yeah.
just understand that there is a message or
Yeah, I
a
was being
message
spoken
coming
to.
to you.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And the message initially was because I was very fearful. Is do
Yeah.
not be afraid. Do not be afraid.
Mhm.
And I remembered that from having read the Bible a lot. Is how often angels would, when they appeared anywhere, often would indicate to the people they're speaking to is not to be afraid.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And so anyway, it reminded me of that. But what was interesting about this trip is I had the spirit guide that was beside me, and when my body got transported from the ground, from off the highway into the helicopter, and it moved to Sunnybrook. It went to Sunnybrook.
Yeah.
I myself and the spirit guide also went to Sunnybrook.
Oh, so
Right.
you were still over,
Yeah, I still was wanting to
to
see.
see what's happening there?
Yeah. And
Mhm.
so what was interesting is behind the police car, there was another car that was of a young man that he stopped when the accident took place, and he came up to where the police car was, and the policeman who was making the call to air ambulance was communicating, and then that particular gentleman said to him, asked him, where are they taking me? And I watched all that, and the policeman said to him, well, she's going to Sunnybrook. So he said, okay, I'll meet you there. So the policeman assumed it was a relative or someone who knew me.
Okay. Yeah.
So what was interesting is that he had gone there. Now this piece was all from the police report and part of what I saw. It was a mix of both because I read the police report after when I was able to
Yeah.
read.
Okay.
And so when I and my spirit guide were at the hospital and looking at where the body was laying, what the gentleman that was in the car had arrived to the hospital before the air ambulance did,
Okay. Yeah.
which I thought was interesting. And then he came into the hospital as soon as the body was brought in, and kept looking over the nurses and asking them, when will she go in, like intensive care, and just it was you definitely felt it was someone who knew the body or knew that person.
You knew that person, and
Yeah,
was just
and was wanting to
making
make sure
that it is just well taken
Yeah,
care of. The
yeah.
steps are followed.
And so I saw all that, and then as soon as they took me into intensive care, the nurses came out and to speak to the gentleman now because they wanted information, and the gentleman was gone.
Oh,
Right.
he was gone.
Yeah. So at that point, when he left, the spirit guide and myself then the spirit guide took me to another dimension. I just zoomed out of there. It felt like, in my memory, like Star Trek. Like
Oh.
we were just zoomed out into another space, right? And left Earth altogether. So I was no
you
longer.
left the body, you left the hospital,
Yeah.
and now you are in a different dimension
Yeah,
with that spirit guide.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so the first dimension that we entered was a dimension where all I could do is use my human words to describe what I saw because
Yeah.
we don't have real words to say the things that I saw. But it is I entered into a space where there was no there's no parameters, there was no walls or anything like that, but it was just a huge space where there was all these lights, right?
Okay.
And as I would come close to a light, the light would take on a face that I would recognize, right?
Oh, so just turned toward you,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
recognize.
Yeah. And so one of them, as I went close to one of these lights, and they looked like, all I could do, like my recollection is like they were like balls of lights, but on that ball, a face would come on. So the first person I had met was my mom's mom, my grandmother.
Okay.
And she looked at me and she said, "What are you doing here? You're here too early. This is not your time." And it really scared me. It took me aback. And and so then I looked at the spirit guide, and the spirit guide just kept nodding and saying, "It's okay, it's okay." And I could hear that in the back of my mind, that it's okay. And so then I looked further ahead to another ball of light, and it was my grandfather, my grandmother's husband, who had also passed away. And he was a man that always reminded me of Moses. So very, very tall. He was white haired, a total head of white hair and a beard of white beard. And I looked at him, and he looked at me and smiled. But his smile was so calming for me,
Yeah.
right? Because that is how I recalled
You
him.
could remember, yeah.
Yeah, and so anyway, so he just nodded and smiled, and I looked back at my grandmother, and my grandmother was a very feisty, little lady, like she
Yeah.
just, in control kind of thing, and so she had that kind of energy. So when I looked at her, she was just shaking her head like, and so I remember, you're here too early. This isn't your time. So then spirit guide took me, and we moved on, right?
Okay.
And I saw quite a few other spirit forms. Again, balls of light is how I would describe them, that were of people that had passed away that I knew.
You knew, yeah.
And two of them were my sister's parents-in-law,
Okay.
and the father and the mother, who I had known, and I had counseled actually at one point. And I looked at them, and again, that light took the faces that I recognized. And then there was a few other faces of people that had passed on. So then my question with to the spirit guide, through my mind to that person's, to the spirit's mind or the spirit's being, was, what are all these people doing here? Like, because it looked like a waiting area, because there was a lot of balls of light, right? And so the comment I was given is that they're waiting to be born.
Oh.
That threw me aback a little bit. It was something that I was very familiar with, in terms of the idea of coming back into Earth dimension. But it was interesting to know, or to see, that this was the spot before these spirits returned. So that was the answer to my question. It was they're waiting to be born. Now, and that kind of shakes a lot of the Christian faith, in terms of that whole concept of reincarnation as being something
exactly.
that's just
That's
not
one
understood, or
Yeah.
just doesn't come through. So I had a chance to ask the spirit guide a lot of questions that I had always kind of held in myself, that if I had a chance I would want to ask.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was about the various religions that are here on Earth that have been created. And is there any, are they all wrong? Is there only one that's true? Like, what's the actual reality of it? And so the transferred thought in response was that each religion that has been created has a seed of truth, right? So you can't throw any of them out, right? And they've all been given at various levels of understanding of where the human evolvement has come to be, in terms of understanding the spiritual side of who we are. And so that answered a lot of questions for me as to why, and the different levels of faith that exist, and different beliefs and ways of worshiping. And then the next question I asked was, is there one messenger, or one, like, avatar that was much more clearly unique into the message that we are meant to be given? And so the answer was Christ. That Christ was the closest avatar to what the true answers to a lot of the questions that we have about life, and about what's important, what isn't important. And the other thing that the spirit guide said to me, because it had always been a question that I had, is the common grounds that a lot of these faiths have versus their differences.
Yeah.
And so the response that I received is there was a lot more commonality amongst these different religions than is actually recognized. And that part of the difference that happens between religions, and why there's always battles and conflicts, is that, and each one wants to see themselves as having the right answer, is that becomes the injection of the human spirit, the personality, the intellect part of who we are. And it needs to be right, and it needs to express that it has the right answer for the public or the people.
So when did you ask the guided spirit about your family? What happened to your family? And what's next for you?
Oh, I never asked about them.
No?
No, I never had thought of them. Right? I never thought of my own. The experience was so like the newness of everything was what took me away in terms of my thoughts, rather than recalling my own history or my own family.
But you were
or where
not
they
worried
are.
about your daughter, let's say? What's going to
No.
happen to her?
No, I never even thought. I never had those thoughts at all. At all. And actually, oh, sorry.
Excuse me.
Yeah. When they took me, when I was in the air ambulance and finally in the hospital, and they took me in intensive care, the initial state.
I'm sorry. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, that's okay. The initial state.
We'll wait.
Oh, wait till.
Because I'll just cut it out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can cut it.
Oh, okay. Now I forget what I was saying.
You okay? I'm down.
Should be.
It's good that you have mine.
Thank you. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Where was I?
Talking about your family, your daughter.
Oh yeah, no. That I had no questions about my family at all, or no inclination to ask about them. Like, to me, it wasn't a topic of need to know.
Mm-hmm.
I was more desiring the need to know where I was, what was happening in the areas and the dimensions that I was in, and its relationship to where we're going from this dimension of the earth plane. So that was more of where my focus was.
You did not ask him, did I die?
No,
Mhm.
I knew I had, because when the air ambulance arrived to the hospital, and when they arrived actually on the highway,
Yeah.
there was two paramedics, and both of them had looked at each other and said that there's no vital signs.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So.
So there was a sense of there's nobody there.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And when it got to the hospital, again, when the two paramedics took me in, and then now I'm in intensive care, and they brought in all these electrical whatevers, right? And initially there was no vital signs, so they started doing that pumping thing of electricity, and finally I did take a breath, right?
Okay.
And then went into a coma. But that time frame, which is interesting, like the experiences I had, because then you realize time on Earth is very, very different than time in these different dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
And the time in the different dimensions, the experiences I had were very extensive and with a lot of going on that was happening, and a lot of conversations that I was taking part in and understanding, and then standing in front of different settings in the different dimensions, that there was no way it was just a few minutes or however long it was when Earth time was taking place. But so that time before I went into the coma, when they were still saying there's no vital signs and they were trying to bring back vital signs, is when I was having these experiences in these other dimensions. So what was interesting is that in the next, there's another dimension that I went into with the spirit guide, and in this dimension, it was one that had to do of whether I should return or continue on.
Oh.
And so that was the next question, because you asked me if did you not know you were dead, or things like that. But it wasn't. I guess I never referred to it as being dead. I just knew I wasn't. The spirit that I was not in the body that's over there.
Yeah.
I looked at it very separately.
Dead per se.
Yeah. No. I never thought of it as dead. It was just like they were separated. Those two things.
Separated.
So then the spirit that was asking questions to the spirit guide wanted to know as to okay, so I asked a question about religions. I asked a question about, you know, how do you understand what's taking place in terms of all these spirits that were balls
Around
of
you,
light that
yes,
were around.
exactly,
So the
yeah.
concept of they're waiting to be born, that was an amazing piece of knowledge. And there was a lot more questions that I was hoping to put in the book that I'm supposed to be writing or will be writing, in terms of other things that I needed to know or I wanted to know, because they had been questions that I've always had
Okay.
while I was
yeah,
on this
in the
dimension of
dimension.
Earth.
Yeah.
And so then I okay, so now I'm with a spirit guide, and I find myself standing in what looked like a courtroom, but it was not a room because there was no walls. But that's how I
Did you
describe
feel your body like you could
moving.
because you say that you felt yourself standing
Yeah.
while
Mhm,
everybody was just a ball of light.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
you still could sense your
yeah. My spirit.
your,
Yeah,
your
yeah.
it still was like in a body form.
Yeah,
Still.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's as if there's levels of
Yeah.
movement, right? Or levels of how the spirit expresses itself.
Oh.
You know,
Mhm.
and so I was in this spirit form that was expressing, like where I could still feel the body, the spiritual aspect of my form,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And I could still see my physical form, but I knew they were separate, right?
Mhm.
So then okay, so now I'm entering this other dimension where it was about, do I move on or do I return,
Okay.
right, back to the earth dimension? And so that was a really, really amazing experience, because in front of me was, it looked like a high court where there was a really, really bright light, one, and then two underneath, and then three lower. And then myself and the spirit guide were facing this group, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the question I remember being asked, again through telepathy from the spirit guide,
Yeah.
because these lights, what I call, you know, beings, could only communicate to the spirit guide, not directly to me.
To you, okay.
To the spirit guide, because I like, it's as if they were high, how much higher, that the lowest they could communicate with was the spirit guide.
Okay.
And then the spirit guide was at a level where that spirit guide could communicate to me as a being that was just kind of propelled into this dimension, right? So then I was told, do I wish to return or do I wish to move forward? And I said, no, I wish to return because I have a daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's things I still have to take care of. So then the response back in thought was, okay, they'll take that into consideration. Right?
Oh.
So then all of a sudden, those lights, there was 1, 2, 3, 5, right? No, yeah,
yes,
5 lights, disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
And I was standing, like, still facing them. So they disappeared, and within seconds, well, again, I don't know whether, but it would have been like seconds.
Yeah.
They came back out, like so myself and the spirit guide were standing there, and they appeared again, and then they communicated with the spirit guide as to the decision that was made, and then the spirit guide would communicate to me. It was all like Star Trek.
Yeah.
And anyway, so the spirit guide said to me, okay, they have agreed that you still have work to do on Earth, and that your return will be facilitated, but that you will return and you'll have to experience a lot of pain that you will have to go through in a healing process. So I was okay with that. Like, I don't think I even understood what the concept of pain was at that moment. But that's, I remember hearing that you will have a lot of pain in your return, and in your trying to, you know, start off from where you left, kind of thing. So again, there was several other dimensions that I had passed through, but it was at that point when I was told that I would return or that the agreement that this high court beings agreed that my return was necessary. That at that point, what I recall is coming back into the body, like in kind of a hard shift, and going into my body, and seeing now I'm in the physical
Oh,
form,
physical form back again.
Yeah. and then I'm looking around and seeing the nurses, and then my eyes dropped, and that's when I went into a coma.
And those beings, when they were talking, all what they said is that you still have work to do with for your daughter. Did they
No.
mention something else?
No, that, and not for my daughter alone, but the comment was I still had work to do. Nicole was part of my memory. Right?
Oh, okay.
But the work to do was more collective. Like there was a lot more for me as a spirit that I had to experience on this earth.
On this earth.
Yeah.
On this
yeah.
dimension before.
Yeah. Before it was time
Yeah.
for me to actually depart.
Yeah.
So that was that. So but when I came back into the body, I went into a coma for
Well, you were already in a coma, but you just only opened your eyes now.
Yeah,
Just
and then went back
feeling back, and you went
Right.
back in.
Yeah. And then at that point, the doctors were telling my parents, and now this I was told, after, that basically the damage to the brain was very severe,
Yeah.
and that I had lost, they felt I would be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life,
Okay.
and that the verbal part, the verbal aspect of language was damaged.
Also damaged. Yeah.
There was a lot of damage in the brain.
Yeah.
And so they said that if she actually ever comes out, they didn't think I would come out of the coma.
Yeah.
But if she does, you're looking at a person who would come out like a vegetable, basically. That would have to be taken care of. Mom and Dad were both devastated, and it was funny because Tina, my sister, said that Mom brought, because apparently my head was like a basketball.
Yeah.
Right, it was
So
huge,
yeah.
and blood in my eyes, and then I had a big gash in my skull. And Tina said, Mom brought a picture and put it beside, a picture of me, and put it beside the bed so people would know what I used to look like.
Oh my God! Wow.
Anyway, so and the car was actually very strong. It was an Audi that I was driving,
Mm-hmm.
and so those are strong cars, but it was totally destroyed.
Totally damaged.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And Dad took pictures of it, and anyway, so I was in the hospital in this coma for 2.5 days, and they say that with the number of hours you're in a coma and then days is also the amount of damage that the body will take on as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the longer you are in a coma, the more damage takes place apparently.
Okay.
So that's what I understood. Then, so Mom and Dad didn't, Mom believed, always and Dad in prayer. And so she got the church, we have a church we were attached to, praying for me. They were praying for me. The family everywhere was praying.
Yeah.
And one of the things that happens, I'm just remembering it now, is at the point of the accident happened, and I was in my body. No, I was thrown out of my body, and I had reached out to the energies of people that I knew that cared about me and loved me.
Oh.
And I needed, for whatever reason, but I needed those energies to move forward, right? And what I remember, Melanie was a young lady who I had hired.
Yeah.
And was working as a social worker, and we were very close. She said at that point, because I described the time between 12 and 1, and she said at that point she felt so tired and so drained that she couldn't understand. She had to go lay down.
Yeah.
And then and the other person actually was my husband to be, because we weren't at that point married, but Winston, he said he felt this pull that came from him. And I recall that very specifically because it was as if I needed love energy in order to move forward into the next stage of when I was being almost transported into another dimension. So I realized from that point that love energy is actually a very powerful force that exists. It's not just the concept of love that we have in terms of the romantic
the
sense.
romantic sense and the emotion that are
Yeah,
expressed. It's
yeah,
much more.
But it's
than-
actually a powerful force that moves atoms, that moves, energy.
It's an
right?
energy. It's an energy that exactly.
And it's-
it's
and
exchange
then-
between
Right,
yeah,
right. And it's an energy that also heals,
yeah.
when it's applied in that direction. And so it just made a lot of sense, because when I always think of Christ healing, right, the force that he would have in any healing process would be the force of love
Yeah.
that he had for mankind. And so anyway, so it added a dimension to what I knew love was, but I came to know it in a much bigger way, in terms of that you could actually draw that from people,
Yeah.
right? And so that was a very neat kind of piece of information that I also gathered.
So I think that this is a very good time to just conclude this episode.
Yeah. Until the
About
next
love.
one. Yeah.
Until the next one, where we continue.
Yes. Sure.
Super. We closed. Are you falling asleep?
No.